we're back. All right, next section of reading for the one and only Bob. The last thing we did was Julia put a leash on him, his string, and said, let's go see Ivan and Ruby. But remember, we've got this storm brewing, this hurricane brewing, okay? Chapter is called Good Words, Bad Words. I've never met a dog who didn't get a big old grin on his kisser when Walk slipped into a conversation. Dogs understand more than you might think. The Nature Channel says we're about as smart as the average human toddler. 2-year-olds, my fuzzy rump, we're a million times brainier than some babbling rugrat. Saying that they're smarter than 2-year-olds. That's funny. There was a dog on that Man's Best Friend show who supposedly understood like 1,000 human words. Border Collie, I think. Those guys need to switch to decaf. The narrator was gushing about this wonder dog, and I'm like, well, duh, Brainiac, of course we understand people. Not everything, mind you. Some of us are more attentive than others. Depends a lot on just how interesting your humans happen to be. Certain words will really cause our ears to perk up. The classics: treat, walk, frisbee, bacon. And don't forget the swear words. Vet, bath, fireworks, vacuum cleaner. We always hear those. So dog swear words are vet, bath, fireworks, and vacuum cleaner. Clock versus moon. Julia and I wait by the front door while George says goodbye to Sarah. I think maybe the hardest thing for me about being domesticated, a pet, if you insist, is that I can't control my own schedule. If I had my way, I'd hang out with Ivan and Ruby all day, every day. Unfortunately, humans love their clocks. Dogs, we use the sky to tell time, like any sensible creature. Sky says it's dawn, time to eat. It's noon, time to eat. It's afternoon, time to eat. It's dusk, time to eat. It's midnight, time to eat. Point is, it's always time to eat. Dogs have a thing for the moon too, like wolves and coyotes and other relatives. No calendars for us. Moon looks like a claw. Moon looks like half a pancake. Moon looks like a tennis ball. Moon looks like a claw again. A chunk of time has passed. Get it like a crescent moon, then when the moon's half full. Okay. But humans, nope, that's not enough. It's not a chunk, it's a month. It's not just dawn, it's 6:32 a.m. on a Thursday, and boy, oh boy, we'd better hurry up and go to school or the office or change the baby, but who gives a woof about feeding the poor, starving, sad-eyed, grumbly-tummy dog? After a spell, I got used to the comings and goings of Julia and her mom and dad, but it keeps changing. Julia leaves early for school and is gone most of the day. She returns home excited and energized, good sense mostly. But every now and then she comes back smelling a little like me after a visit to the dog trainer. Battle-weary, ready to crawl under the covers. Like after a tough day at school, he can tell. Sarah, who was pretty sick for a while, is feeling fine again. Thank goodness. But she went back to work and she's away all day too. And George, who has a job at Ivan's place, works 5, sometimes 6 days a week. That means it's just me and the guinea pigs a lot of the time. I got a doggy door and an outside run, but it's not the same as touring the neighborhood with your person. Peeing without a potential audience is like talking to yourself. Peeing without a potential audience, meaning getting to pee when you want, instead of like your person standing there with their leash saying like, go potty, potty dog, you know? Sometimes I'm the teensiest bit jealous of Ivan and Ruby. They always have someone around, which is crazy, I know. I'm free, and they're not. But there it is. Told you, I'm not a saint. Pretty cool what he's saying. So he's saying like, I'm free, I'm a pet, I'm not in a cage, but in some ways he would almost rather be. Kind of an interesting thing. This next chapter is called The Shelter. I know our route to Ivy and Ruby by heart, and I can't help tugging a bit, even though I'm not supposed to. It's been a couple days since I've seen my pals, and I need my friend fix, like I need air and water and belly rubs. We don't live far. Down to the end of the street, around a corner. Good news source there. Then a few more blocks. Remember how when he gets to the street corner, he calls it a good news source because he can smell and understand what's like going on? Okay. Here's the picture of it. When I walk Julia, well, okay, I suppose it looks like she's walking me, but I beg to differ. There's a place we pass that always makes me jumpy and bummed. It's the animal shelter. And I know it's a good place, a space for pets who don't have a safe home of their own. When I was abandoned on the highway, just a few weeks old, a nice cage with a soft towel in it and a bowl of fresh water, well, I would have given just about anything for that. Still, When I walk by and I hear all those desperate barks and meows and squeaks, it gets to me. Sometimes having great hearing is a pain. Thing is, I realize they have a home and the gang in there doesn't. And I just try not to think about stuff like that, you know? I mean, it's not like I can do anything about their tough breaks, right? And in fairness, maybe those animals aren't like me. I've always been a resilient, hard-working sort. Maybe some of those guys even made their own bad luck. Don't get me wrong. I try to be a nice guy. I do what I can to make the world a better place, sure. Chat with the guinea pigs. Lick the strawberry jelly off Julia's hand. Do my wagon dance when the rents come home to make them feel good. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But it's like I said before. You gotta look out for numero uno. Guess that's why the shelter harsh is my mellow. It's just, I'd rather not have to hear those guys every time I walk by. It makes me sad. Reminds me of the bad old days. Drulius. I knew this guy back when I hung out at the mall with Ivan and Ruby. Nice dog named Drulius. Basic mutt, maybe some lab and golden in there somewhere. He'd done some hard time at a couple shelters. One of those dogs you knew had seen more than his share of bad stuff that the world can throw your way. One ear bitten off, scars, a limp. Drulius lived in his backyard. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Chained up mostly. Flies on his food. Empty water bowl way too often. Still, he always had a nice word to say when I'd pass him on my daily rounds, checking out the neighborhood trash cans. Once I saw his owner. Again, that word. Step on to the back porch. Drulius was barking. But he had a good reason. A stranger had passed by. Barking is what we're supposed to do in that circumstance, right? Maybe he's the UPS guy. Maybe he's a serial killer. I mean, come on. We're not the FBI. So anyways, owner came out. Big guy. Mean looking. Gave Drulius a hard kick with his boot and yelled, "Shut up, you fool!" and disappeared. Drulius looked at me, kind of embarrassed. We kept talking. A few minutes later, the owner came out again. Put some towels on a line. Drulius headed over, tail between his legs, cowering, saying, "I'm sorry, I love you, I am yours, yours, yours," with his whole dog being. Guy completely ignored him and headed back inside. "Oh, he's having a tough time," said Drulius when the guy was gone. "He's a jerk," I said, because subtlety is not my strong point. "No, he loves me, he does. He has a funny way of showing it." "Humans," said Drulius, licking a sore on his leg. "You know how they can be." Do I ever? But we gotta stay true. Love them, forgive them. Thought about that. Thought about it a lot. Why, though? I finally asked. Why do we have to forgive them? Drulius looked shocked, then confused, as if I just asked why cheese tastes good. It just does. "That's the way it is," he said. "That's what we do, Bob." I started to reply, but I managed to hold my tongue, which is not easy for me. It's a very long tongue with a mind of its own. There was no point in making Drulius feel worse than he already did. Later that morning, I found half a turkey sandwich and gave the whole thing to him. Well, okay, I had a taste first, but still. It was kind of hard to hear this story about Drulius's owner just not even liking him, being chained up mostly, flies on his food, empty water bowl, and then his owner comes out and kicks him and says, "Shut up, you fool." And yet there's Drulius still loving his owner. It's kind of interesting. Bob's not so sure about that. He feels a little differently. Next chapter is called Forgiveness. Seems like forgiving humans is one of those doggy things we're supposed to do, like having zoomies or doing bed boogies. It's written into our canine souls. Well, somehow I didn't get the memo. The one that apparently went out to every other dog on the planet about forgiveness. Why should I forgive the humans who tossed me and my siblings out into the night? When you forgive, you lose your anger. And when you lose your anger, you get weak. And when you're weak, you can get hurt all over again. Kind of that tough. He's got that really tough outer shell. The art of human watching. By the time we reach the park, the sky is definitely in a bad mood. Gray cows galloping like panicked horses, the nervous scent of rain on the way, the kind that makes you antsy in your own skin. When we get near the employee entrance, I hop into Julia's backpack, like always. We enter through the special gate where George shows his ID, checks in, and says hi to the staff. Pet dogs aren't allowed at the park, natch. Foxes, wolves, jackals, my dog cousins. Wolves. They are, but in my opinion, even though they're typically part of my extended family, they're nothing like dogs. Only dogs have perfected the art of human watching. The smartest thing we ever did was figure out how important the human gaze is. So often, when we follow our owner's eyes, we're rewarded with something amazing. A smelly sock, A glazed donut? A glazed donut that's fallen on a smelly sock? We follow every blink, every sideways glance. We see it, whatever it is, before the humans do. We understand before they do. And if there's a glazed donut involved, we eat it before they do. Puppy eyes. It's mid-morning, still pretty early. There aren't many visitors around yet. We've got a meeting in 20, George tells a couple co-workers, Hank and Sonia, who groan. Ugh. Just a quick one, going over contingency plans one last time in case there's any flooding. During the last hurricane, a small part of the park flooded, mostly near Reptileville. George helped move cages. He came home smelling like cotton mouse and copper heads. It was all I could do not to barf. Weather Service just issued a tornado watch, Hank says. I thought we were having a hurricane, Julia says. We are, Gus, but sometimes tornadoes are spawned during hurricanes, George explains. So sometimes tornadoes also happen when hurricanes are happening. Julia frowns. But a watch means maybe, not for sure, right? Yeah, but I want you to head home, just in case, George says. Please, Dad, just 10 minutes, Julia says. She's using the special voice she reserves for moments when she really, really wants something from her parents. I guess kids manipulate their moms and dads the same way dogs manipulate the humans. I don't know, George begins. I promised Bob. I figure that's my cue to pop my head out and look adorable. So I do. Hey, Bob, says Hank. Sonia reaches over and scratches my ears. I'm pretty popular around the park. I give George my best puppy eyes. And he caves. 10 minutes, tops, he says. Meet me back here. Puppy eyes. Works every time. Mr. Oog? Here's how I figure puppy eyes got their start. Cave humans were sitting around a fire wearing mammoth fur and grunting about how there was nothing on TV because TV hadn't even been invented yet. And some wily wolf thought, whoa, they've got leftover mammoth meat. And he probably whimpered and cowered and did a tummy display and looked pathetic enough that Mr. Oog, that's like the original caveman, he's naming the caveman Mr. Oog, finally tossed him a bone. And soon enough, a few zillion years later, voila, man's best friend. After all this time, there's a thing, like a magnetic attraction between dogs and humans. We've studied them for so long, we can read every twitch and sigh. Suppose it was easier than chasing down mammoths. And I get it. I do. The behind the ear scratch, the food in a fancy bowl, the bed by the fireplace. Gotta admit that Julia's pretty fun to hang out with. And I'm grateful, really, I am, that her family took me in. Still, I don't need them. You need someone. Eventually they let you down. And you end up feeling like a real doofus. Stopping there.